Hi, India. We're going to take a look at your second film, give you a little bit of feedback here. So I'm just going to play and maybe stop here and there, give you some thoughts as we go. Actually, before we even start, you can see I've got this set to 0, on the beginning of your piece, and it's already on. What I would suggest here is, as you're building your work, to add a little bit of that pre-roll. I think we talked about this in the 300 level class, and that is to build what's called pre-roll and post-roll to your pieces, particularly when you're doing narratives like this, when someone would be sitting down to screen a piece. You want that little bit of emptiness before your piece starts, so that if you're in a screening, that the audience has this almost cleansing moment before the piece starts. So, I know this was just, you probably had the timeline going and then you just exported, but what you would do is you just take all of the content on your timeline and scooch it down. I would say maybe the minimum would be 3 seconds, maybe as much as 6 seconds or so. And then have the piece fade up from black from there and then begin. That's going to give it this little sort of, I don't know, this beat beforehand. It's sort of almost like if you're in a theater, it just doesn't start. The actors just don't rush on stage and start. And a movie just doesn't blink on and start. The lights go down, and then there's a moment, and then the lights come back up and the piece starts, right? Film often works this way too. So consider that as you go. Okay. Now, here's another thing. And these are all just picky, but we want to refine and get your editing and get your film works to take it to another level, of course. And a lot of what I'm going to talk about is stuff that that may sound a little bit like I'm kind of getting in there with a little bit of a needle and kind of sifting through some things. And it's important, though, because we want you to be able to start to polish some of these things. You have a lot going for you with what you're doing here and with your passion for making these kinds of pieces and the resources that you have. But I want to make sure that you're with all of that you're still seeing some of these moments. So here we have the title, and the title comes on over image. Okay. So, and that happens plenty of times where you have that come on, and I think that's okay, particularly with a narrative. I oftentimes suggest against it with installation pieces that might exist in the gallery that would be looping, that kind of thing. But with a screen piece, a narrative that begins and ends, having a title over the image, that can work okay, especially the way you've done it with the white kind of knockout, that kind of thing. However, what is an issue and you'll want to correct, and I say you'll want to correct, definitely want to correct this, is watch what happens here. You've got the title up and the image changes before the title goes away. That never happens. Okay. So you never, there's very few nevers, but you never cut to another image with a title still up there. And it just, you wouldn't do that. So it's jarring. Right. So you'll want to make a decision about that. When does the title come up? If this is only a 3-second shot, 1, 2, 3, and that's not enough time for the title. Hey, Fred, how's it going? Right. Maybe you need to wait for the title until the moment here where you've got more time for the title to come up, right? So choose that time. It doesn't have to come up right away. You can be 6 seconds. You could even be, 20 seconds into your piece, right? It could be this whole dialogue that happens first. before your title even shows up, you could have foul money happen right here. When you go to black here, so you got this foul money, your title could come here instead. So it would clean it up. These are just options as to where you could put that title. I would suggest playing around with it, put it in a couple of different spots, export it and look at it and just to see where it lands and, just feel it out. Even export it, play it on a larger screen and kind of feel it out. These are subtle things that you'll start to be more intuitive about. You'll feel more intuitive about as you do it more, but you'll definitely want to work out as you go. So anyway, we'll keep going. I think this would also have been a good opportunity to do maybe a J cut here, where we.
Yeah, that's okay.
You got the audio. Where if we had the a longer break right here, we hear that can squeaking, and then the audio pops up. I think a J cut would have been really kind of interesting here. That's a nice move there. You didn't quite time it out. You're getting there. I see what you're doing. It's good that you're doing it. It's not quite there, but you're getting there, and I appreciate the intention there. You're centering the character there, and I think that's good. The rest of the composition, you want to clean up. I can tell when you're behind the camera. When you are in front of the camera, we'll talk about this a little bit later, but when you're in front of the camera and you're operating the puppet and you've got the camera just still there, it's really tough because you can no longer be the director of photography. And so therefore you're not able to really manage the scene as well. Here you're able to compose a little bit better. You're able to get the shot a little bit better.
Oh, that boy, he gave me water.
It's good audio. Actually, it's very good audio. I'm not sure what you're doing. I mean, you must have some sort of mic going on. I don't know, but the audio is excellent. Very clear and sharp. The composition, again, you've got you're nice and tight in here. You got the puppet centered there. You've got this sort of a little bit of an off balance here. There's some info here, and we're talking about composition here because, I think it can be very important. You've got this over here that's kind of loose. And I think that if we were to cut that off here, in terms of composition, as I'm doing it, you can't see what I'm doing, but as I'm doing it visually, it's a much tighter composition. If the composition ends here, and then we kind of cropped over here along this line because of the shape, much tighter composition, much cleaner looking composition on that. All this stuff matters. It really does. And we're talking about this because you've got so much more that you're thinking about. You've got the script, you've got these characters that you're managing. You're dealing with a character yourself. You're doing the puppetry. All of that you've got going on, and you can start to see that it can, no matter how much time you have, this can start to add up in terms of the things you have to deal with and think about. This is where it might have served you to have maybe somebody else doing the puppet. You could have done the talk or something like that. And you know what? It's occurring to me, maybe somebody else did. Maybe you were doing the audio and somebody else was operating the puppet. Is that the case? I don't know. I just assumed you were doing the puppet. Maybe somebody else was doing the puppet. That would be a cool thing. Maybe your mom was doing the puppet. I just assumed that you were doing it. But anyway, but there's so much for you to be thinking about here that it can really just start to add up. Anyway, composition, I think, is where we want to try to start to improve this. The other element that I think we could do on your next piece as you continue to create works like this is time of day. You're working in location, time of day, and lighting. Quality of light and controlling that quality of light is going to be the next big step for you. To be able to be out there on the set like this and to be able to set up a scene where you are going to avoid things like this harsh highlight here. You're going to be able to manage, these things back here so that they're not overwhelming. Even if you're having to work midday to be able to get the lighting in there, this is what does take a long time to be able to reflect light in here and give a certain quality of light that warms it up or cools it off. All of that kind of stuff, again, raises the level of the piece from being a student work into a truly cinematic looking piece. And I think you're interested in having a cinematic quality to your work. And so I'm gonna, do what I can to point out these things so that you can get it to that level.
Oh. That should do it. That boy saved my life. Oh, hello.
Hi, I just came to check on you.
Are you the little boy that helped me?
Yes.
Thank you so much. These coins here, those are for you. It's really hard to find water here nowadays.
Well, I'm here to give you more water.
Oh, that's so nice. Yes, I would like water every day. That would be awesome.
You see that, chicken? I got a job for you.
So here's where in the story we're introducing, the villain or the antagonist of the piece, where he is, looking at this thing. Now, just in terms of the narrative, when you introduce a character, you have to introduce a want. So every character wants to want something. We know what the chicken wants. The chicken wants water to survive. The little boy, what does the little boy want, right? The little boy wants to help. The little boy wants to do what, right? I think we could maybe clarify just a little bit more as that goes. And I'm not saying do over. What I'm saying is these are the things that as you're building narratives, you want to be thinking about as you're doing this. And I know you had this built after a parable already, which is great. Continue to do that because you have a framework already. So we're introducing this character, right? Forget about the mysterious arm, that kind of thing. We got this guy, right? He's a character. What does he want? And so why does he want it, right? What kind of situation is this guy in that, first of all, he's there? What put him there? And why is he under this guy's thumb? Right? We need to know that even on the very periphery, why those things are for us to be interested, for us to make more sense for us as an audience to be invested in this. Maybe even to understand him a little bit, because we know afterward he has a consciousness crisis, right? He ends up saying, I don't want to do this anymore, kind of thing, right? We need to know why he had that consciousness crisis. That would help. It would help us understand more about why he went through that. Why would he go through the extreme of doing that? Stealing from the little boy and doing all of whatever. Why, why is all this stuff happening other than just they're bad, right? Other than they're just bad. A little bit of an audio problem there, not a big deal. This happens. See, this is a much better composition here, though. What you've got here, this is much closer. You've got the edges addressed. The tree here blends right into the puppet, kind of moves around. That's what's making this a much more solid composition.
Oh,
So, this contrasting between the danger, the seriousness, and then the sort of tongue-in-cheekness and the funniness of the puppet thing. It's quite interesting. I think you could work this a little bit. You could do more pieces like this. It's really kind of fun.
oh. Oh, hi, Sheriff.
How's your water situation now?
Yeah.
So on that cut, I take a look. There's a directors there, Joel and Ethan Cohen, and they work with this sort of they're masters at directing the sort of dialogue cut. Joel and Ethan Cohen, this idea of creating these beats. Excuse me, these beats within their dialogue. Joel and Ethan Cohen. Take a look at a couple of their movies like Fargo or The Man That Knew Nothing, I believe is what it is. Anyway, they've got several movies that they've done, and one of their hallmarks is just that, is that they have these wonderful beats. This happens, I think, a little bit too fast. Right here.
How's your water situation
See,
now?
it cuts right on the dialogue, which is a little, again, I'm not trying to be, again, real picky here, but I'm just kind of wanting to make sure that you see, these are the kinds of things that when I'm working on a piece, particularly if I've got some audio, that this is the next step of my editing. I'll put it together as a rough cut. And then the next step that I do is kind of doing all this massaging. I'll move things in just a little bit, or a little, I'll tighten things up or move things out and that kind of thing, in order to get the rhythm and the flow to work out just right. This takes a long time. This is also one of the reasons why you when you have a dedicated editor, this is all they do is edit. This is all they're focused on. There's an advantage to that. So again, there's a reason that a lot of these kinds of pieces, to the scale and the scope that you're reaching for, that you have multiple people, not just in front of the camera, but behind the camera as well. And there would be nothing wrong with you meeting, working with, and collaborating with a variety of people, where either you take on the director role or the DP, or you primarily function as the editor or the writer or whatever, or two of them and not all of them, that kind of stuff. So.
Well, I have a friend who comes in and gives you some water.
Really?
If that boy hadn't have found me, I would be,
Well, that's good to hear, Fred. I mean, it's not like you're a spring chicken anymore.
Yeah, I know. Oh, one thing.
What's that? What's that?
I saw one man that I had never seen before.
Just one, not two?
Just one.
Okay.
I think he's watching me.
Really? You wouldn't be clucking me, would you?
I ain't clucking nothing. I need you to keep an eye out for that man.
Well, I'll come through here a little more often and see if I can catch you. Okay?
Thank you so much, Sheriff.
You take care of yourself now.
Thank you.
Okay, so right there, I don't know if you meant to give away anything, but his reaction there showed frustration and anger. And it kind of, I think we kind of forecast a little bit here, just based on the voice didn't give it away in the beginning, when he first put his hand there or anything like that. I think he disguised the voice pretty well. But there, his reaction there, I think, I'm not sure if you meant to kind of indicate that he's the bad guy or he's some bad guy or whatever, but there it is. Again, we want to know the reason why the bad guys are bad guys. Is the guy that, that your brother is playing, does he owe the sheriff money? Is he a criminal who is, wanted? And there's what is it that it is? Is the sheriff somehow an ex-criminal who's on a lam or what? Even just a subtle, 10-second dialogue that would help clarify those things. The motivation behind that would help.
Where's my fucking money?
I don't got it.
What do you mean you ain't got it? The chicken's already seen your dumbass.
Timing ain't right. I don't have it.
It's time you have.
So again, this would have been the moment maybe to have clarified some of the motivations, right? I want my money that you owed me. You're going to go back to jail if you don't. I got, whatever. And then this guy could have been like, well, you were in on the job as well, and blah, 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 that kind of stuff. That talks a little bit about why these guys need the money, why they're doing what they're doing, would have clarified a little bit more their motivation, because the motivation is going to help the audience understand a little bit about the tension between these two guys and maybe why he is, upset, and maybe why in the end, the sheriff ended up having to kill him, because he thought, well, this guy's going to go squeal in the end, and so I got to kill him now, kind of thing. You know what I mean? It helps to clarify a few of those things that I think were sort of left loose. Like, why did the sheriff go and kill the guy? He just was saying, I'm not going to work for you anymore. So anyway, these are some things to clarify as you're building narratives to make sure that you're thinking about as you go forward.
Fucking money. You know what happens if I don't get my money, don't you?
No, what are you gonna do about it?
I'll fucking show you.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Also, this is maybe where some soundtrack music would start to work. I don't know if you've got access to that too. I don't know. Maybe someone in your family plays music or that kind of thing, or perhaps find some free open source music that you might be able to have, but some underlying sort of, soundtrack, that kind of thing, to help kind of accentuate it a little bit more, I think would be a good idea. But why is he able to manipulate this guy? That's what I'm interested in. See some music here, some soundtrack. Now, if we had a little bit we're up above him. So, being below, see, when we're talking about power, right? We deal with power. Who has the power right now? Right? Who has power? Do we have power right now as an audience, or does this guy have the power right now as the character? We want to show him as powerful, or do we want to show him as weak? So all of this has to do with what we want to show the audience. When we want to show that he has power, we want to shoot from underneath, right? We want to be looking up at him. When we want to show him on even plane with us, we shoot him at a level. And when we want to show him as weak, we want to be up above him. So it made sense for us to we're at level with him. So if we wanted to show the power, because we're sort of point of view with the other character, we should be above him, right? So in this case, we're above the sheriff, right? We're slightly above the sheriff. So we have power over the sheriff, but the sheriff is the most powerful character in the whole piece. So we should always be below him, right? Or at least, presumably below him. We should always be maybe even to this character, because we're presumably, on an even plane with this character. So at this point, with this character here, he is now in a weakened position, right? He's being yelled at, he's being bullied and pushed on. We should be above him to show him as weak, right? We should be looking down on him because we are seeing through the eyes of the bad guy. So we should be low, right? Again, here, right? We should be low. We should be above him to be looking down on him. So he appears to be weak and low. But at this point here, we're looking up at him, right? Now he is trying to exercise power. We're above him or below him. He's seen as a little bit more powerful. We are above him now, which we shouldn't be. We should still be at least on level with him or below him now so that he seems powerful now, right? All this has to do with the psychological portrayal of the different characters that you're showing. Right? Did he hear him? Right? Did he hear the little kid? Is that what made him? Let me hear that again. Maybe you meant to insert the squeaking bucket. Is that what we needed to hear the squeaking bucket or something like that is why he ran away, right? I'm presuming. Yeah. So, so that would have been the time to L cut that squeaking bucket in again. I'm sorry, J cut the squeaky bucket in so that we knew why he ran away like that.
That no good rotten piece of shit stole the boy's coin. Oh. He gave me water.
I like the Yosemite Sam kind of reaction. That's pretty funny.
Wait, that's so nice. Jared.
Yeah, Fred, what's up?
Well, that man.
The guy you seen the other day?
Sorry for the cut there. We had a little Wi-Fi glitch here on campus, so we'll just jump right back into where we were. I know the video is starting to get a little bit long. I just saw that it was about 27 minutes already. You probably don't care about the length of the feedback, or maybe you do. But anyway, we'll keep going. I have a little bit more to look at. We still have about 2 minutes left. I won't continue to pick tiny things out. We've talked quite a bit about a lot of the finer points already.
The money I've been paying the boy.
Really? All right, I'll see if I can find him and fix this for you. All right?
Thank you, Sheriff.
About damn time you showed up. Got my money?
Take your money.
All of it?
Yeah, I ain't working for you anymore. You make me sick.
Yeah, we'll see about that.
So again, yes, we need to know the motivation behind that, right? We need to know, one, why was he working for him to begin with? We have to have some indication of that in order for the story to have more dimension. And number two, why is he upset, right? Why is he now having this crisis of consciousness? That's number two. Number three, why is it now necessary for a bad guy to kill the guy, right? Why is it now to the level of, if this guy's not going to work for him, he's got to now die, right? There's these three things that is going to happen, because what you're doing here is escalating tension now. It's going to go from, I don't want to work for you. They don't have much of an argument here. He just says, I don't want to work for you, and he walks away. But then this guy's like, going to kill him. So you may have had all this footage. I think maybe you might have had this and you were trying to cut it down, so that might have been it, where you were trying to streamline and make it more simple. That could very well be it.
Hey, Fred. How you doing? I think I might have taken care of that little problem you had.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think that guy's gonna be bothering you anymore or stealing the boys' coin.
And so here, I think, again, we've said before, the looking up at him would have been, we're slightly below him. But I think if we were to be looking up at him, he's in profile, which again, it's a good idea what you're doing with the profile, and to the back, you're making him sort of hidden. You're sort of making him mysterious and sort of slightly hidden. We don't ever have a full front face, sort of full view of his face. So that's good because he's always slightly masked and slightly hidden. But the reveal could be that, we see the front of his face kind of thing. That could be an interesting way to go too.
You have a good day, all right?
But I think at this point, perhaps we've already guessed that he is the villain in it. That happened fast. The credits happened pretty fast. So, again, I know you're trying to keep it shorter. You were saying you had like 19 minutes, or I don't know, something like that, as far as your time and all of that kind of stuff. So a lot of really good stuff here. I really am excited about your ambition of being able to put pieces like this together. It's a lot of work. And you have the resources to be able to put something like this together. The time that it takes to be able to do the script, to location scout, add to that rehearsal, run-throughs to be able to get the blocking, to be able to get them to walk, your actors to be able to walk into the right spot, finding props, finding materials. And then you got time of day, you've got composition, you've got all of these things, and editing, all these things to consider, and you're putting these together in, insane amounts of time to be able to do something like this. So by all means, by going through this for a half an hour and picking out all these things, the last thing that I want to do is discourage you from doing these kinds of pieces. What I want to do is encourage you to be doing these kinds of pieces, just to be able to continue to do them and know, okay, here's the next level. Here's the next step. Here's the next step. This is why these things tend to take 6 months to build sometimes, because there's just a lot to work on. The good news is none of it is out of your reach. None of this stuff are things you couldn't do. Right? None of it is something that is like, well, you need a $50,000 piece of equipment in order to do the thing I'm asking you to do. No, not at all. It's all stuff that you could be doing. Now, of course, if you had a $50,000, boom crane, you could do kinds of shots that, otherwise couldn't do, or a Panther dolly, you could start to do shots that otherwise could do. I would suggest looking at picking up a Steadicam or gimbal for yourself. We're not talking about thousands of dollars. We're talking a couple of $100. I can help you explore ones that you could pick up. It'd be great for your camera. DSLRs, they don't have to be super heavy, but what they'll do is allow you to move that camera around and get you that kind of freedom of movement, and you'll get that cinema quality to what you're doing. That's number one. Number two, I want to encourage you to explore some lenses, or explore particular angles on the lenses that you have that are more conducive to cinematic film work. That would be the 24 millimeter setting, 35 millimeter setting, 55 millimeter setting. Those three I would work with. If you're going to do a long shot, meaning something that would be from far away that you're trying to do a close up on, maybe 85, but excuse me, I hope that didn't grind in the audio, but those would be technically things that I would encourage you to do. Let's look on B&H and try to find an appropriate and affordable gimbal for you to use. You don't have to get the ones that are motorized all over the place. There are ones that are motorized that are more like a stick that you can use that will work quite well, that will give you this sort of fluidity when you're moving the cameras. That'll definitely take your camera work up to another level. And then your lens work, whether you purchase a cinema lens, we're going to be hopefully purchasing some lenses here at the university that we can check out to you. So you might be able to check out a 24mm cinema lens to be able to do a project like this, where you can get that sort of quality look that you want to get. But certain angles, look up certain angles. When you see films, try to explore and research the kinds of lenses that are used in films, so that you can duplicate that. The lenses are much more than just the angle. It has to do with depth of field, has to do with the quality of the light, the way that the light is refracting and stuff like that. So that's going to take you to another level as well. Think more about shallow depth of field when you're on location here. Everything shouldn't be in focus. You'll want to try to create things where you're creating soft focus from the things that are in the foreground versus things in the background. The tumbleweed and all that stuff in the background should be soft. It'll help direct the viewer's eyes and things like that. Don't use autofocus unless it's super good and it's very necessary. I noticed there we used autofocus on the gun because when you pull down, we autofocus toward the back. Stay away from autofocus unless it's a very specific thing that you're doing it for. So again, I know this was a long feedback video. I hope you don't mind, but I felt like you put a lot of work into this, and that I wanted to be able to give you enough time to hear some quality feedback. So I look forward to your next pieces, and we'll see you in the studio. Bye now.